You literally cannot walk to New York, Tokyo, London, and Johannesburg at the exact same time.
Right. I mean, it's physically impossible.
Exactly. It's impossible. Yet, most of us actually spend our entire lives trying to do exactly that. We're hedging our bets, keeping every possible door open, and, trying to pursue a dozen different conflicting paths.
Yeah. And as a result, going absolutely nowhere, we just end up anchored exactly where we started.
Right.
And that geographical impossibility is actually the central metaphor of this really specific, quite provocative philosophical text from October 2007.
Written by Su Feng, right.
Yes, exactly. It's titled, "To Where Does the Ship of Lifechanyuan Sail?" And it uses this whole framework of an ocean voyage to categorize human lives. It draws a very harsh line between those who are just wandering aimlessly across the water and those actively navigating toward a higher state of being.
Which is why our mission today for this deep dive is to explore the striking metaphors and, frankly, the profound questions this author raises about human purpose, direction, and free will. But, just to be clear right up front, our goal with this deep dive is absolutely not to endorse this specific spiritual framework or, any religious ideology. We're just here to impartially explore the source material.
Right, because regardless of your personal beliefs, the lens this text offers on what happens when we refuse to choose a destination is, well, it's universally challenging.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we all know that deep existential overwhelm of having way too many options and no clear trajectory.
Yeah, that feeling of being totally stuck. But before we can even begin to understand where this titular ship of Lifechanyuan is actually going, we really have to look at how the author views the rest of humanity's vessels.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So he basically argues that a life without a specific direction, like without a clear unifying goal, is essentially a lost one.
Right, because when you try to walk to four cities at once, the result isn't just that you failed to reach them.
Exactly. The spiritual consequence, according to the text, is that you just spin in circles. You're essentially reincarnating on the exact same spot. You just repeat the same energetic loop forever because you lack a forward vector.
I mean, trying to walk to four cities at once perfectly describes modern decision paralysis. It is like the ultimate manifestation of FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Oh, 100%. We dabble in a dozen different hobbies, career paths, relationships.
Yeah, because we're terrified that committing to one means sacrificing all the others. And by refusing to close any doors, we never actually walk through a single one.
It's so true. And the author illustrates this stagnation by breaking down all the ships on the ocean of life into four really distinct categories.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first category is the fishing boat. This is a ship that just follows the exact same route out into the ocean, catches its fish, and returns to the exact same dock.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it operates purely on a survival loop.
So it's basically the biological maintenance of life.
Yeah.
You wake up, commute, work, pay the bills, sleep, and then just do it all again.
Right, you are sustaining your physical form, but you aren't actually journeying anywhere new.
That sounds exhausting.
What's the next one?
The second category is the cruise ship. Now, this one offers the illusion of progress. A cruise ship takes you to these exotic ports. It feels really glamorous, and it simulates an adventure.
But it's a closed loop, right?
Exactly. The core mechanism of a cruise is that it ultimately drops you right back at the exact same dock where you started.
Oh, wow. That is the ultimate vacation mentality. You're working 50 weeks a year just to spend 2 weeks escaping.
Right. It just provides a temporary dopamine hit. You get a brief change of scenery, but the fundamental reality of your existence hasn't moved an inch.
You just paid money to briefly forget where you are parked? That's incredibly bleak.
It gets darker. Then the text shifts to a much more predatory category, which is the pirate ship.
Oh, the extractors. Exactly. These vessels anchor in secret places. They venture out to rob other ships, hide, and repeat the whole process. In the context of navigating life, these are individuals who operate purely by taking from others.
So literal theft, obviously,
Yeah.
but also, I'm guessing, like emotional or psychological drain.
Oh, definitely. Energetic vampires. They fuel their own aimless drifting by siphoning resources from the people around them.
Because they lack their own internal compass, right? So they hijack the energy of others.
Precisely. And then finally, the author presents the fourth category, which initially sounds quite noble. It's the expedition ship.
That sounds like a good thing, doesn't it?
You'd think so, but the author is actually highly critical of them. These are ships exploring just for the sake of exploration. He points out that they drift aimlessly toward frozen icebergs or raging volcanic islands with no real purpose other than just to see what is there.
Right. So it is curiosity totally divorced from a framework of meaning.
Exactly. Exploring a volcanic island without a scientific purpose or, a survival imperative is just reckless exposure to destruction. It's movement purely for the sake of movement, which the author views as just another form of being completely lost.
So if every default path, whether that's surviving, escaping, extracting, or just aimless wandering, if all of those ultimately leave us stranded or destroyed, it really forces the question.
Right. What does a deliberate, successful trajectory actually look like?
Exactly. And that brings us to the main event, the specific route of this text's titular ship. So what is the actual itinerary of the Lifechanyuan?
Well, the text outlines a very rigid path. The ship's ultimate destination is a place called the Elysium Celestial Islands continent, which initiates what the author calls the Lifechanyuan era.
Okay, Elysium Celestial Islands continent. Sounds intense.
It is, and a crucial mechanical detail of this journey is that it is strictly a one-way trip. The author really emphasizes that this is a ship of life, and it never returns to its starting point.
So there are no round trips, no coming back to check on the dock.
None. But it is not a direct, non-stop flight to this Elysium continent either. The itinerary actually includes 2 mandatory layovers or developmental tiers along the way.
Right, I remember this. The first stop is called the 1,000-Year World, and the second is the 10,000-Year World.
Yes, and these layovers act as a filtering mechanism of spiritual density. And this is where the author drops a massive reality check.
Oh yeah, writing in 2007, he basically states that absolutely nobody currently on board his ship is actually ready for the final destination.
Not one single passenger possesses the spiritual readiness for the Celestial Islands. Furthermore, he admits that very few can even reach the second stop, the 10,000-year world.
So the vast, overwhelming majority of the passengers on this ship will barely meet the minimum standard to be dropped off at the very first stop.
Exactly.
You know, setting a bar that's impossibly high almost feels self-defeating for a spiritual movement. I mean, usually these texts promise ultimate enlightenment if you just, follow the steps.
Right, it's usually very utopian.
Yeah. Why design a ship where almost no one makes it to the final port on their first voyage? It's kind of like a frequent flyer program where nobody actually earns the diamond status.
Okay.
Unless the point isn't about reaching the final destination immediately, but about the friction of the filtering process itself.
What's fascinating here is that friction is the core mechanism of the philosophy. Like I said, this is not a utopian free-for-all where mere participation guarantees a perfect outcome. It is a strict meritocracy.
Right. So simply being on the ship doesn't magically upgrade your spiritual capacity to handle the final destination.
No, it doesn't. However, the author does provide a mechanism of hope within this rigid system. He explains that the passengers are constantly sublimating and making progress. He introduces this concept of a qualitative leap overnight, basically breaking the 0 point.
So the progression isn't just a slow, agonizing crawl.
No, not at all. It functions much more like a phased transition in physics. Think of boiling water. You add heat, energy goes in, but the water remains liquid.
Right. It seems like nothing fundamental is actually changing.
Exactly. But the moment it hits the boiling point, the 0 point, there is a sudden qualitative leap, and it transforms into vapor. The author is suggesting that a spiritual trajectory can experience a similar sudden, profound breakthrough.
That immediately upgrades a passenger's final destination, from the first layover all the way to the final continent.
Exactly.
But if reaching the destination requires that level of profound sublimation, how does one even secure a valid ticket to get on the boat in the first place? Because the author claims there are a significant number of people who firmly believe they are safely on board this ship, but they actually aren't.
Right, because the boarding process is entirely internal. The text states explicitly that you must board the ship with your heart.
Not just your physical body.
Exactly. You cannot board it merely with your physical body or by putting your name on a roster or attending the meetings or wearing a specific symbol. If your name is on the manifest, but your true inner self isn't fully committed, the ship just does not recognize you as a passenger.
The author vividly describes these fake passengers, too. He says they appear to be on board, going through all the physical motions, but in reality, they are still standing on the shore.
Yeah, the specific phrasing he uses is really striking. He says these people are waiting to see, watching the wind direction, weighing pros and cons, and choosing their plan.
Right, so they're hedging their bets, basically keeping one foot on the dock just in case the ship sinks.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I have to push back on this on behalf of anyone listening who, navigates the world analytically.
Fair enough.
If I don't check the weather or watch the wind direction before setting sail, I literally drown. Weighing the pros and cons is how we avoid bad investments and toxic relationships. So why is this author classifying basic situational awareness, which keeps us alive, as a spiritual failure?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, in the physical three-dimensional world we navigate every day, critical thinking and risk assessment are absolutely vital survival tools. But the author is establishing a dichotomy here between physical navigation and absolute spiritual commitment. In the context of a spiritual journey designed to transcend the physical world, intellectual hesitation operates as a tether.
Okay, get tether.
Yeah, when you weigh the pros and cons of a spiritual leap, your brain is essentially just running a simulation of the journey. You are calculating probabilities rather than experiencing frictionless surrender. You cannot achieve that sudden qualitative leap overnight if the part of your consciousness is busy analyzing the wind speed.
Oh, I see. So while your physical body is on the deck, your consciousness is still safely on the beach. You are splitting your energy.
Exactly. And the author establishes a very strict boundary regarding this behavior. He makes it clear that if you operate this way, hedging your bets until the very end, and you fail to reach the destination, you cannot claim the ship cheated you.
You cheated yourself by refusing to fully board. And this brings us to the ultimate tension in the text, which is the ticking clock. Because this ship and this whole spiritual filtering process is not going to wait around forever for the people on the beach to finish running their risk assessments.
No, the timeline is totally non-negotiable. The text establishes that the ship operates strictly on the universe's life adjustment schedule.
Right. It does not operate on human time.
Exactly. It does not care about human convenience, and it is entirely indifferent to our procrastination.
The author really emphasizes that it will sail from the human world exactly on time, regardless of the final head count. Like, it will leave if there are millions of passengers on board, and it will leave just as easily if there is zero.
This raises an important question about that cosmic indifference, because that's what makes the ultimatum so heavy. The stakes laid out in the text are monumental. The ship is positioned at your door to pick you up to escape the world's catastrophe.
But because this entire boarding process relies 100% on individual free will, the accountability rests entirely on you.
Entirely. If you miss the departure because you were still watching the wind direction or analyzing the pros and cons, the text basically states you cannot blame gods, you cannot blame deities, and you have no right to cry outside the pearly gates of heaven.
Yeah, and the author actually extends this challenge directly to people following traditional religions too, those who are waiting for a savior like Buddha or Jesus to return.
Yes, he asks a very piercing question regarding the mechanics of their faith. He asks, what kind of savior are you waiting for? Are you waiting to perceive them with your physical attributes, like your physical eyes, your brain, your ears? Or are you going to perceive them with your heart?
It is such a profound critique of outsourcing spiritual transformation to an external physical event. If you are waiting for the sky to open up so your physical brain have undeniable proof that it's time to get on the ship, you have fundamentally misunderstood how the boarding process works.
Exactly. Waiting for physical proof is passive. True boarding is an active internal transformation. And the author concludes the text with a definitive, unyielding statement. He says, the ship of life has been to the earth and has passed your door.
So what does this all mean? The deadline has already arrived.
Right.
When we strip away the specific esoteric terminology of the Lifechanyuan and the Celestial Islands, the core mechanism at play here is a radical demand for absolute accountability. To quickly recap the journey we've taken you on today, we started by looking at the tragedy of directionless ships.
Right. The fishing boats locked in daily survival, the cruise ships offering illusions of progress.
And the parasitic pirate ships and the aimless explorers.
We then examined the incredibly strict itinerary of the Lifechanyuan, which demands a one-way trip and filters its passengers based on spiritual density rather than mere attendance.
Right. We looked at the critical difference between putting your name on a manifest and actually boarding with frictionless internal commitment.
And we explored how overanalyzing and weighing the wind direction can become a self-deceptive anchor that just keeps you on the shore.
And finally, we discussed the ticking clock of the universe's schedule, an indifferent timeline that places 100% of the responsibility on your own free will.
You know, the value of these metaphors extends far beyond this specific text, straight into the reality of your own life. You really have to evaluate your own trajectories.
Absolutely.
Are you trying to walk to Tokyo and London at the exact same time in your career trajectory, in your relationships, in your personal evolution? Are you physically present, but mentally still standing on the shoreline, constantly analyzing the wind, waiting for a perfect guarantee that the universe is never going to provide?
It really is a phenomenal framework for identifying where we are splitting our own energy.
Mm.
And I want to leave you with a brand new thought to mull over, something that builds on this text, but brings it directly into the present moment.
Okay, I'm listening.
Throughout the document, the author focuses on these ultimate destinations, the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, the celestial islands, as places to travel to, seemingly after some grand catastrophe. But what if we brought that concept down to Earth?
How do you mean?
Well, what if these destinations aren't literal, physical places at the end of a cosmic journey? What if they represent the different depths of peace, clarity, and purpose that we can unlock in this current life right now?
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Right, maybe the 1,000-year world isn't a planet. Maybe it's simply the profound mental quiet that washes over you the moment you finally stop trying to walk 4 cities at once.
Yeah, that sudden release of tension.
Exactly. Maybe you arrive at the Celestial Islands the exact second you fully commit your heart to a single meaningful direction, without hedging your bets or checking the wind. The choice isn't just about where you might end up someday, it is entirely about how you choose to exist today. Pick a direction and board with your heart.